tension reached a breaking point one evening when Adeola and Kunle sat on the couch, chatting with Adejoke rested in the bedroom. Adeola leaned in closer than necessary, laughing at something Kunle said. "You know, Kunle, if Adejoke hadn't met you first, I would have snatched you for myself." Kunle froze. He laughed awkwardly, brushing it off as a joke. Adejoke and Adeola were identical twins, so alike in appearance that even their parents sometimes struggled to tell them apart when they were little. But as they grew older, their personalities set them apart like day and night. Adejoke was the quieter twin, calm and nurturing, with a love for family and stability. Adeola, on the other hand, had a fiery spirit, always chasing excitement and the finer things in life. Growing up in their modest home in Ibadan, the twins were inseparable. They shared everything like clothes, secrets, and dreams for the future. "Joke, you know I'll always fight for you," Diola would say, nudging her sister playfully. "And I'll always hold you down," Adejoke would reply with a soft smile, their bond seeming unshakable. Their parents, Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo, often marveled at their closeness. "No matter how different they are, these girls are like two halves of same heart," their mother would say. As they grew older, their differences became more pronounced. Adejoke was the one who stayed at home after school to help their mother cook or care for their younger siblings. She dreamt of a quiet life filled with love and family. Adeola, however, was rarely home. She loved parties, adored being the center of attention, and was drawn to the idea of living a flashy and glamorous life. By the time they were in their 20s, their paths had fully diverged. Adejoke met Kunle, a charming and hard-working young man from Lagos. He wasn't wealthy, but his love for Adejoke was evident in everything he did. He showed up to family gatherings, brought small gifts for her parents, and always made her laugh. When Kunle proposed, Adejoke called Adeola first, her voice trembling with excitement. "Diola, he asked me to marry him and I said yes." Adeola squealed in delight over the phone. "Finally, Joke, you deserve this, and Kunle is a good man." At the wedding, Adeola was the life of the party, dancing and taking endless photos. She whispered to Adejoke as they shared a quiet moment in the corner. "You have found your happily ever after, sis. I will be the cool aunt when the baby starts coming." Adejoke laughed, squeezing her sister's hand. "You will always have a place in my life, Adeola. Always." But as the months turned into a few years, Adeola began to feel the sharp sting of envy. She visited Adejoke and Kunle in their cozy home in Lagos, where laughter filled the rooms. Kunle doted on his wife, and Adejoke's happiness was evident in the glow on her face. During one of her visits, Adeola watched as Kunle gently placed his hand on Adejoke's growing belly. She felt a pang in her chest. "She has everything I've ever wanted," Adeola thought, forcing a smile. One evening, as they sat on the couch, talking, Adeola turned to her sister. "Adejoke, you are so lucky, oh. You have Kunle, you have a baby on the way, and a beautiful home. Don't you ever feel like life is just so perfect for you?" Adejoke shook her head, laughing softly. "Perfect? Life is never perfect, Adeola. It's about making the best of what you have." Adeola smiled, but her thoughts were far from innocent. "It may not be perfect, but it's better than what I have." Kunle, ever the kind host, treated Adeola like family. He always made sure she was comfortable during her visits, joking with her and teasing her the way a brother-in-law might. But Adeola noticed things that made her heart race. She noticed his easy laugh, the way he carried himself, and the warmth in his eyes. One evening, as Kunle was clearing the dinner table, Adeola joked, "Kunle, if Joke wasn't so lucky, I might have stolen you for myself." Kunle laughed awkwardly, brushing it off. "Good thing Joke and I found each other then." Adejoke chuckled, but a faint unease lingered in the air. For Adeola, the seed of envy had already been planted. She loved her sister, but every visit reminded her of what she didn't have: a stable home, a loving partner, and the joy of a baby on the way. As much as she tried to suppress it, the feelings grew stronger, threatening to crack the bond they had built over a lifetime. Though Adejoke remained blissfully unaware, Adeola's heart was becoming a battlefield of jealousy and desire, setting the stage for a betrayal neither sister could have imagined. Adejoke's pregnancy was really a dream come true for her. Every morning, she would place her hand on her growing belly, smiling as she thought about the tiny life growing inside of her. Kunle was equally thrilled, always talking about how he couldn't wait to be a father. "This baby will complete us," he often said, kissing her forehead. But the pregnancy wasn't without its challenges. Morning sickness hit Adejoke hard, leaving her weak and nauseous. The once energetic and cheerful woman spent most days lying on the couch, unable to keep food down. She struggled to manage house chores, and her energy levels dropped drastically. Kunle tried his best to help, cooking simple meals and ensuring she was comfortable, but his demanding job often kept him away for long hours. By the time he returned home in the evening, he was too exhausted to do so much. One afternoon, Adeola showed up unannounced, carrying bags of fruit and snacks. "Adejoke, you look terrible," Adeola said bluntly as she walked into the house. Adejoke, leaning back on the couch, managed a weak smile. "It's the baby, yo. I feel weak all the time, and Kunle has been so busy with work these days. But I manage." Adeola frowned, her gaze shifting to the messy kitchen and the pile of laundry in the corner. "Sis, this isn't good. You should have called for help now. You needed help." Adejoke sighed. "Kunle does what he can. This is just a lot. I'm sure he would have helped out when he returned, even though he gets so tired." Adeola sat down beside her, taking her hand. "Let me move in until the baby comes. I can handle the cooking, cleaning and errands. You need to focus on resting." Before Adejoke could respond, Kunle walked in, his tie slightly loosened after a long day. "Adeola is right, Joke," he said, glancing at the wife with concern. "You need extra support, babe. It's better if someone you trust is here, and your sister here has offered." Adejoke hesitated. She loved her sister, but Adeola had a way of turning even the simple situation into very dramatic ones. Still, she couldn't deny she needed help. "Okay," she finally said, giving her sister a small smile. "But Diola, no troubles though. This house is peaceful." Adeola laughed, throwing her arms around Adejoke. "Don't worry, sis. I'll be on my best behavior." The first few days of Adeola's stay were genuinely helpful. She cooked hearty meals, cleaned the house, and made sure Adejoke had everything she needed. She even went grocery shopping and redecorated the nursery, adding her own stylish touches. "This baby is going to be so spoiled," Adeola said, arranging the baby's clothes in a drawer. Adejoke smiled. "Thank you, Diola. I don't know what I would do without you." Kunle also appreciated Adeola's help. "You're really making a difference," he told her one evening after dinner. "Adejoke seems more relaxed with you in our lives." Adeola beamed, brushing off the compliment. "Anything for my sister, Kunle." As the weeks went by, Adeola's presence began to shift. She started dressing a bit too provocatively, wearing shorts and tank tops that clung to her figure. At first, Adejoke didn't think much of it, chalking it up to Adeola's usual style. But she noticed Kunle glancing at her sister a little too often during dinner or when Adeola went to pick something up. "Adeola," Adejoke said one morning, "don't you think you should wear longer clothes? I mean, when you're around the house, Kunle is a man, and you know how men are." Adeola laughed, waving her hand dismissively. Sis, are you serious? Kunle isn't looking at me like that. He is your husband and I am your sister. Stop overthinking things. Adejoke let it go, but couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that crept into her heart. Kunle, on the other hand, began noticing Adeola's charm. She was lively and witty, a stark contrast to Adejoke's current exhaustion. During one quiet evening, Adeola joked, Kunle, when are you going to teach me how to make your famous jollof rice? Adejoke says you are the expert. Kunle chuckled, scratching his head. It's not that special, but I'll teach you someday. Good, Adeola said with a playful wink. I need to impress my future husband. The comment hung on the air longer than it should have, but Adeola quickly changed the subject, her laughter filling the room. For Joke, the things and changes were just subtle, but so noticeable. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beneath the surface, but she told herself she was being paranoid. After all, Diola was her sister and Kunle was her husband. Over the next few days, Adeola's behavior became even more bold. She started wearing tighter clothes around the house, claiming it was because of the Lagos heat. One afternoon, she came out of her room in a short pair of shorts and a tank top. Adeola, is this what you're wearing around my husband? Adejoke asked sharply, her voice laced with irritation. Adeola looked down at herself and shrugged. It's just clothes, sis. Kunle doesn't care about what I wear. Besides, it's hot. Kunle, who has been sitting on the couch reading, looked up briefly and quickly returned to his book. It's fine, Joke. Don't make a big deal out of it, he said without looking at her. But it was a big deal to Adejoke. She felt her trust being chipped away little by little. The tension reached a breaking point one evening when Adeola and Kunle sat on the couch, chatting with Adejoke rested in the bedroom. Adeola leaned in closer than necessary, laughing at something Kunle said. You know, Kunle, if Adejoke hadn't met you first, I would have snatched you for myself. Kunle froze. He laughed awkwardly, brushing it off as a joke. Good thing Joke and I met when we did, he said. Adejoke noticed that Kunle was acting differently. He seemed distracted and avoided eye contact when she asked about his day. One night, as they lay in bed, she turned to him and asked, Kunle, is there something going on with you and Adeola? Kunle frowned, his voice defensive. What are you talking about? She is your sister. Why would you even ask that? She's too free with you, Adejoke said. The way she talks to you, the way she dresses, it's not right. Kunle sighed, rubbing his hands. Joke, you're tired and stressed because of the pregnancy. Adeola is just here trying to help you, and this is what you're saying. Stop overthinking things, please. But Adejoke couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next morning, as Adejoke sat in the living room, folding baby clothes, she decided to confront her sister. Diola, she said, her voice firm. I need to talk to you. Adeola looked up from her phone, her voice loud. What's wrong, sis? You're getting too comfortable with Kunle, Adejoke said bluntly. The way you talk to him, the way you dress, it's crossing a line. Adeola laughed, shaking her head. You're just overreacting, Sister Joke. Kunle and I are just friendly. He's like a brother to me. He is not your brother, he is my husband, Adejoke said, her voice trembling. Fine, I'll tone it down if it makes you happy, but you're being too sensitive. Adejoke nodded, but deep down she knew her instincts were right. As Adejoke's due date approached, her body grew heavier and her energy dwindled. Her need for help increased, and Adeola stepped up to manage the house and support her sister in every way possible. She accompanied Adeola to doctor's appointments whenever Kunle was not around. She ran errands to buy baby supplies and took charge of organizing everything. Sis, everything will be perfect for the baby's arrival, Adeola assured her one afternoon. I don't know how I will do this without you, Adejoke said, squeezing her sister's hand. You've been my rock. Adeola smiled warmly, but deep down, a mix of pride and envy churned in her heart. One evening, Adejoke, exhausted from a long day, Retire to bed early. Kunle, I'll just leave you and Adeola to watch your boring football, she teased as she climbed the stairs. Kunle laughed. Joke, it's not boring. You just don't understand the passion. Adeola stayed behind with Kunle in the living room, where they sat watching the football match together. She was wearing a fitted dress that revealed her legs. As the game progressed, Adeola leaned closer to Kunle on the couch, pretending to follow the game. Kunle, I still don't understand this football madness, she said with a soft laugh, but it's fun watching you get so into it. Kunle smiled but didn't respond. His focus was on the screen. After a moment of silence, Adeola spoke again, her tone softer. You know, you've been so good to my sister Kunle. She's lucky to have someone like you. Kunle shifted uncomfortably, glancing at her. We are a team. That's what marriage is about. Adeola smiled. If only I could find someone like you, she said quietly, her hand brushing his arm lightly. Kunle froze for a moment. You will find someone, Adeola. Don't worry. Maybe, or maybe men like you are just rare, she said, her voice barely audible. That night, as Kunle lay in bed next to Adejoke, he couldn't stop thinking about Adeola's words. He told himself it was nothing, that she was just being friendly, but deep down, he felt the stirrings of something he couldn't name, a mix of flattery and guilt. Over the next few days, the boundaries between Adeola and Kunle blurred further. It started with small things like a lingering glance, a touch that lasted a second too long, a compliment that felt too personal. One afternoon, while Adejoke was napping, Adeola joined Kunle in the kitchen as he prepared a light meal. You're always cooking, she said. Most men wouldn't even lift a finger. Kunle laughed. I enjoy it. Besides, Adejoke needs the rest. Adeola stepped closer, her smile playful. You're really something, Kunle. You're not like other men. Kunle felt his cheek warm under her gaze. Thanks, he said quickly, turning back to the food. Adeola didn't push further that day, but the tension between them grew with every interaction. It was a humid evening when Adeola began feeling sharp contractions. She clutched her belly and called out to Kunle, her voice trembling. Kunle, I think the baby is coming. Please, let's go to the hospital. Kunle rushed to her side, panic and excitement written all over his face. Adeola, get the hospital bags, please, he shouted. Adeola emerged from the room, calm and composed. Don't worry, Kunle, I've got it, she said, grabbing the neatly packed bag from the corner. The three of them hurried to the hospital, where Adejoke was wheeled into the delivery room. The labor was long and exhausting. Finally, after hours of labor, the sound of a baby's cries filled the room. The nurse emerged, smiling. Congratulations, Mr. Kunle, you have a healthy baby girl. Kunle let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He and Adeola followed the nurse into the room, where Adejoke lay on the bed, cradling the new tiny born in her arms. She's so beautiful, Kunle whispered, tears glistening in his eyes as he kissed Adejoke's forehead. Adejoke smiled weakly, her exhaustion forgotten as she gazed at her daughter. She's perfect, Kunle, our little blessing. Over the next few weeks, motherhood took over Adejoke's life completely. Long nights, feeding her baby, and constant diaper changes, and just little time to rest. However, even in her tired state, she started noticing things around the house that didn't feel right. Kunle seemed unusually cheerful when talking to Adeola. He laughed louder at her jokes, something he rarely did with Adejoke anymore. One afternoon, as she sat nursing the baby in the nursery, Adejoke heard laughter echoing from the living room. It wasn't just any laughter, it was Kunle's deep laugh, the kind he used to share with her when they first got married. Her heart sank. Later, as she carried the baby to the living room, she paused at the doorway. Kunle and Adeola were sitting on the couch, their heads leaned close together, talking in hushed voices. They didn't even notice her standing there. Adejoke cleared her throat. What's going on? She asked, her voice sharp enough to make them jump. Kunle immediately stood up. Nothing, Joke, we were just talking. Adeola leaned back on the couch. Sister, you're overthinking these things, oh. Honestly, it's not that deep and you're beginning to upset me. Adejoke's eyes darted between the two of them. She murmured, walking away. Sorry. The little things kept piling up. Adeola began wearing makeup more often, even though there were no visitors. She wore fitted clothes that showed off her figure, claiming it was because she was trying to feel good about herself. Is this how you dressed in someone else's house? Adejoke asked one morning when Adeola came into the kitchen wearing a tight blouse and jeans. Adeola smiled, brushing her hair over her shoulders. Sister, it's just clothes. Stop being so traditional. Besides, Kunle doesn't mind, or does he? Kunle, who was sitting at the dining table, looked up briefly. It's not a big deal, Joke, let her be. One evening, Adejoke decided to test her instincts. She pretended to go to bed early, leaving Kunle and Adeola in the living room. She stayed awake, listening to their voices from upstairs. You're really something, Kunle, she heard Adeola say, her tone playful. What do you mean by that? Kunle asked, his voice light but curious. Adeola laughed softly. You know what I mean. You see, my sister Joke, she's so lucky, oh. Not every woman gets a husband like you. Adejoke's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to rush downstairs and confront them, but she held back, hoping she was misinterpreting the situation. The next day, her suspicions deepened when she saw Kunle's phone buzzing with a text message. It was a text from Adeola. Read. Last night was fun. Don't be too serious all the time. Her hands trembled as she stared at the screen. What? What did I even mean? Was she reading too much into it? Or was there something she wasn't seeing? Kunle walked in. Just as she was about to unlock the phone, Joke, why are you holding my phone? He asked, his voice calm but with a slight edge. Well, I was just checking who was calling. It's nothing. Kunle picked up the phone and slipped it into his pocket without another word. That night, as she lay in bed beside Kunle, she turned to him. Kunle, is there something going on between you and Adeola? She asked, her voice trembling. Kunle frowned, looking at her with a mixture of surprise and annoyance. What are you talking about, Joke? She is your sister. Why would you even think that? Because you act differently around her. Adejoke replied, tears welling up in her eyes. You laugh too much at her jokes. You let her dress however she wants around you, and you two are always whispering. Kunle sighed deeply, rubbing his arms. You're stressed, Joke. You've been through a lot with our child. Don't let your imagination run wide. Adejoke stared at him, her heart heavy with doubt. I hope I am wrong, Kunle, because if I am not... She didn't finish the sentence, but the unspoken warning hung in the air. Kunle said nothing, rolling over to face the other side of the bed. It was a quiet Saturday morning and the house felt unusually calm. Kunle was in the bathroom taking a shower and Adejoke sat in the bedroom feeding the baby. The soft cooes of her daughter were the only sound breaking the silence, but the peace was short-lived. As she adjusted the baby on her lap, Kunle's phone buzzed on the nightstand. She glanced at it absent-mindedly at first, but her heart stopped when she saw the name on the screen, Adeola. Her pulse quickened as she read the preview of the message. Sex last night with you was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. For a moment, she sat frozen, unsure if she had just read it correctly. Her trembling hands reached for the phone, her baby now resting against her chest. She unlocked it without hesitation. Kunle had always trusted her with his password. What she saw next shattered her world. The text thread between Kunle and Adeola was filled with flirtatious messages, secret plans, and confessions about previous sex encounters. Tears blurred Adejoke's vision as she scrolled through the evidence of their betrayal. Each message was like a dagger to her heart. By the time Kunle emerged from the shower, Adejoke was standing in the middle of the room, her face wet with tears and his phone clutched tightly in her hand. Kunle, she said, her voice trembling with rage, how could you do this to me? Kunle froze. What are you talking about? She threw the phone at him, her voice rising. Beast, Adeola, you've been sneaking around with my own sister behind my back. Kunle caught the phone, his face Pauline, as he realized what she had seen. Joke, I, he stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. How long, Kunle? Adejoke screamed. How long have you been sleeping with her in my own house while I was carrying your child? Kunle dropped the phone, running his hand over his face in shame. It's not what you think, he muttered. Not what I think? Adejoke cried, her voice trembling. The messages are right there. Do you think I'm stupid? The baby began crying, startled by the shouting, but Adejoke couldn't stop. Her pain had bubbled to the surface, too overwhelming to contain. As Kunle tried to approach her, she held up her hand. Don't come near me, she spat. You betrayed me, Kunle. You broke everything we built. Joke, I made a mistake, Kunle said, his voice low. I wasn't thinking clearly. Please, let me explain. The first day it happened, I was a little bit drunk. There is nothing to explain, Adejoke cut him off. You destroyed this family the moment you touched my sister Kunle. My blood. Not once, not twice, several times. Unable to listen to any more excuses, Adejoke grabbed her phone and dialed Adeola's number. Her hands shook as the line rang. Hello, sister, Adeola's cheerful voice came in. You're not my sister anymore, Adejoke said coldly, her voice devoid of emotion. Adeola's tone immediately shifted. Joke, what are you talking about? You know exactly what I am talking about, Adejoke replied. I saw the messages. I know everything. You've been sleeping with Kunle behind my back. There was silence on the other end before Adeola spoke. Her voice laced with defiance. Sister, calm down. It's not what you think, oh. Don't tell me to calm down. You are dead to me, Adeola. Don't ever come near me or my child again. Do you hear me? Sis, Adeola tried to interject, but Adejoke ended the call, throwing the phone onto the bed. Kunle sat onto the edge of the bed, burying his face in his hands. Joke, please, let's talk about this. I will do whatever it takes to fix this. But Adejoke shook her head, her tears falling freely. There is nothing left to fix, Kunle. You and Adeola have destroyed everything. You don't deserve me, and you don't deserve this child. She turned away from him, crowding her baby close to her chest, as fresh waves of grief washed over her. The man she had trusted, the sister she had loved, it felt like her whole world had crumbled on an instant. The betrayal sent shockwaves through the family, leaving everyone stunned and heartbroken. When Adejoke told their mother what happened, she refused to believe it at first. Adeola, your sister would never do such a thing, their mother said, shaking her head. She did, Adejoke replied, her voice trembling. You can ask her yourself. Their mother, a strong but emotional woman, immediately called for a family meeting. Everyone needs to come home this weekend, she said firmly. This nonsense must stop before it destroys us all. The family gathered in their parents' small sitting room in Ibadan. The tension on the air was thick as Adejoke sat silently with her baby in her arms. Kunle sat beside her, his head bowed in shame, while Adeola sat across the room, her face set in defiance. Their mother stood in the middle, her hands on her hips, her eyes filled with disappointment. Their dad sat by the corner, staying calm. Adeola, their mother began, her voice breaking. How could you do this to your own sister, to your blood? What kind of woman betrays her family like this? Adeola rolled her eyes. Mama, stop blaming only me. Kunle is just as guilty as I am. He came to me too. Don't you dare shift the blame, their mother snapped, tears streaming down her face. You are her sister. You were supposed to protect her, not stab her in the back. Kunle cleared his throat, his voice barely audible. Mama, she is right. It was my fault too. I made a terrible mistake, and I regret it every single day. Adejoke glared at him, her eyes cold. Don't act like you're taking responsibility, Kunle. You both knew exactly what you were doing. And now you want to stay here and play the victim. Adeola scoffed, crossing her arms. If Kunle was so happy with you, Adejoke, this wouldn't have happened. Maybe you weren't giving him what he needed. The room fell silent as everyone stared at her in disbelief. Adeola, their father, who had been quiet until now, thundered. You should be ashamed of yourself. How dare you say such a thing? Adeola shrugged, refusing to back down. I am just saying the truth. Adejoke stood up, her voice shaking with anger. You know what, Adeola? You're right. Maybe Kunle wasn't happy with me, but that doesn't excuse what you did. You're a snake. You're selfish and heartless, and you can have Kunle if that's what you want. Because me, I am done. He's now my leftover. You can have him all you want. Kunle stood up, reaching for her arms. Joke, please. She stepped back, holding her baby tighter. Don't touch me, Kunle. You and Adeola deserve each other, but you will never have a place in my life again. Their mother sobbed quietly, clutching her chest. You two have torn this family apart, she said, her voice thick with grief. Adeola, do you realize what you've done? Joke will never forgive you. You've destroyed your sister. For what? A man? A man who can't even defend you? Adeola glanced at Kunle, who avoided her gaze. For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed her face, but she quickly masked it with a smirk. It's too late for regret, Mama. What is done is done. You're shameless, their father muttered, shaking his head. Shameless and reckless. The meeting ended in chaos. Adejoke left with her baby, refusing to speak to anyone. Her mother followed her to the car. Joke, don't cut yourself off from the family, please. We will find a way to fix this. Adejoke shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Mama, I can't. Every time I see Adeola or Kunle, I would remember the betrayal. I need to protect myself and my child. Kunle tried to approach her one last time, his voice breaking. Joke, please, don't live like this. Let me make it right. She looked at him with a mixture of sadness and resolve. Kunle, there is no making this right. You destroyed us. Without another word, she drove off, leaving her broken family behind. Back in the house, their mother turned to Adeola, her disappointment etched deep in her face. I hope you are happy now. You've lost your sister, and for what? A man? A man who will never choose you? Adeola said nothing, but as Kunle quietly walked out of the door, leaving her behind, her defense began to crumble. The weight of her actions started to sink in, but by then, it was already too late. The damage had been already done. Adejoke sat quietly in the lawyer's office, her baby nestled in her arms. Her heart felt heavy, but her resolve was firm. Signing the divorce papers felt like a final blow to the dreams she once had, but it also marked the beginning of her freedom. As she stepped out into the sunlight with her child, she whispered, It's just us now, Ayomide, but we'll be okay. The move out of her marital home was bittersweet. Packing her belongings, she came across pictures of her and Kunle smiling on their wedding day, celebrating anniversaries and laughing together. Each photograph was a painful reminder of the love that once existed, but had been destroyed. She set the pictures aside, determined not to let them haunt her new life. Adejoke rented a modest two-bedroom apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. With her baby as her priority, she focused on creating a warm and stable home. She prayed often, leaning on her faith to guide her through the dark days. God, please give me the strength to be a mother to Ayomide. Please, she prayed every night. Finding a job was the next hurdle. Adejoke hadn't worked since she got married, and her confidence was shaky. She applied for several positions, enduring countless rejections before finally landing a role as an administrative assistant at a small logistics firm. The salary was modest, but it was enough to support her and her baby girl Ayomide. At work, her colleagues noticed her determination. One of them, Amaka, became a close friend and confidant. You are stronger than you think, Joke, Amaka often said. Look at how far you've come already. Through hard work and perseverance, Adejoke earned respect at her job. She gradually rebuilt her self-esteem, finding solace in her independence and the love she poured into raising her child. Meanwhile, Adeola's life took a drastic turn. Kunle, unable to handle the fallout from the scandal, ended things with her. This isn't working, Adeola, he said one evening, standing in the doorway of her apartment. What we did was wrong, and I can't keep living like this. Adeola stared at him, anger flashing in her eyes. So you're leaving me too, after everything? Kunle looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry, I need to fix my life. And you need to fix yours too. So pick up the pieces and move on. As the door closed behind him, Adeola was left alone to face the consequences of her own choices. The scandal had tarnished her reputation and she struggled to rebuild her social life. Friends distanced themselves and whispers followed her everywhere. For the first time, she felt the full weight of her actions. She had lost everything: her sister, her family's respect, and even the man she thought she had stolen. Despite the pain, Adejoke refused to dwell on the past. She poured her own energy into her daughter, ensuring that Ayomide grew up surrounded by love and stability. A few years later, Adejoke's life looked completely different. She had worked her way up at her company and was now a team leader. Her apartment, once simple and sparse, was now warm and filled with laughter. Ayomide, now 5 years old, was the light of her life, a bright, curious child who loved to ask endless questions. One day, the family gathered for their mother's 70th birthday celebration. It was the first time in years that everyone would be gathered under one roof, including Adeola. Adejoke felt a mix of emotions as she arrived at the party. She hadn't seen Adeola since the scandal, and though time had dulled the pain, the wounds had not fully healed. Adeola, sitting quietly in a corner, looked different. Her once bold and confident demeanor had softened. When she saw Adejoke, she hesitated before approaching her. "Sis," Adeola began, her voice trembling. "Can we talk?" Adejoke turned to her, her expression calm but guarded. "What do you want, Adeola?" Tears welled up in Adeola's eyes as she struggled to speak. "Joke, I am sorry. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to tell you how sorry I am. I was selfish, I was stupid, and I destroyed everything we had. I regret it every single day. It has haunted me. Please, show me your mercy." Adejoke stared at her sister, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. "You hurt me in ways I can't even describe, Adeola," she said quietly. "You betrayed me and you broke our family. Some things cannot be undone." Adeola nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know. I just need you to know that I am deeply sorry." Adejoke sighed deeply, her heart softening. "I have moved on, Adeola. I have rebuilt my life for me and my daughter Ayo. But forgiveness doesn't mean we can go back to the way things were." Adeola whispered, "I understand. Thank you for listening." Later that evening, as Adejoke watched Ayo playing with her cousins, a sense of peace washed over her. Her life had been shattered, but she had rebuilt it piece by piece. The laughter of her daughter reminded her of how far she had come. Though she still carried the scars of betrayal, Adejoke had found healing in her independence, her faith, and the unconditional love she shared with her daughter. In that moment, she realized that her strength was her greatest victory. No betrayal, no pain, and no loss could ever take that away from her. The story teaches that betrayal, no matter how painful, does not define a person's future. It emphasizes the importance of resilience, self-worth, and the strength to rebuild after heartbreak. True healing comes from within, and forgiveness, while powerful, doesn't always mean restoring broken relationships. It shows that choosing dignity, focusing on personal growth, and finding joy in life's simple blessings can lead to a fulfilling and meaningful life, even after deep wounds. Thank you so much for watching this fantastic story on African Stories by Tiana. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing stories. See you next time.